It starts with a whisper, a dry riverbed here, a dwindling reservoir there. But soon, the whispers grow louder, turning into desperate cries for water. Day 12 without running water. The tap stopped working last week, and the bottled water is gone from every store. The lines at the distribution point stretch for miles. Yesterday, I waited 8 hours for a single gallon. It wasn't even clean. I could see the particles swirling in the plastic jug. But what choice do I have? I ration it, one sip at a time. It's never enough. My throat feels like sandpaper, and my skin is dry and cracked. The heat doesn't help. It's relentless, baking everything under a sky that refuses to give us rain. At night, I hear people fighting over water. Some even break into homes. The desperation is everywhere. I used to think water would always be there. It's just water, right? But now it's the only thing that matters. My neighbor left yesterday with her kids, heading north, she said, to find greener lands. I don't know if she'll make it. The roads are clogged with cars, and the news says there's nothing better up there. I keep looking at the empty sink, remembering how easily I'd fill a glass without thinking. Now, I can barely remember what it feels like to have enough. The first signs come from the American Southwest. The Colorado River, lifeblood to tens of millions, slows to a trickle. Reservoirs like Lake Mead and Lake Powell hit historic lows, leaving sprawling cities like Las Vegas and Phoenix teetering on the brink. Farms across California's Central Valley, once the breadbasket of the nation, wither in the relentless heat. Then it spreads. Across the Midwest, the Ogallala Aquifer, the source of irrigation for 1/5 of the world's grain, is pumped dry. Fields go fallow, and farmers abandon their land. The once mighty Mississippi River, a critical artery for trade and transport, becomes impassable in places, choking the economy. But it's not just North America. The crisis is global. In the Middle East, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, already strained by decades of overuse, finally run dry, igniting tensions between Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. Across Africa, Lake Chad, a lifeline for millions, vanishes completely, plunging the region into famine. In South Asia, the melting glaciers of the Himalayas disrupt the rivers that billions depend on, sparking clashes between India and Pakistan over dwindling water supplies. Even in Europe, the Rhine and Danube rivers, critical for industry and transport, are reduced to little more than streams. At first, nations tried diplomacy. Emergency summits are held, treaties are signed, but the water doesn't return. Then come the wars. Cities in the American Southwest turn into ghost towns as people flee the heat and lack of water. Across the Great Plains, states fight over water rights, turning neighbor against neighbor. The U.S. government, stretched thin, declares martial law in several regions to maintain order. Internationally, the fighting is even worse. In South Asia, clashes over the Indus River turn nuclear as desperation leads to devastating decisions. Across Africa, regional wars erupt as nations scramble to control what little water remains. Refugees by the millions pour into Europe, overwhelming already strained systems. The United Nations collapses under the weight of failed negotiations, leaving the world to fend for itself. For the people living through it, the crisis is a daily nightmare. In the once thriving cities of the American Southwest, the air is thick with dust and despair. Residents line up for hours at water distribution points, rationing every drop. Across the globe, the story is the same. Children walking miles for murky water, hospitals overflowing with the sick and dehydrated, families doing whatever it takes to survive. Within a decade, humanity's great cities, Los Angeles, Cairo, Karachi, Johannesburg, are unrecognizable. Skyscrapers stand as hollow monuments to a world that could no longer sustain itself. Farms and factories lie abandoned, their workers scattered to the winds. Even the wealthiest nations crumble under the strain, their economies buckling as water becomes the world's most valuable currency. And in the end, the irony is unbearable. A planet covered in oceans brought to its knees by the inability to share and manage the fresh water that could have sustained us all. This is how it all ends, not with fire or ice, but with the silent, relentless thirst of a world that forgot to plan for tomorrow.